Welcome to The Voice Show. It always airs at Science TV. With me, your host, Videlis Njoki, and that is my sign name. So you could be asking, when does The Voice Show air? It airs every Friday at 8 p.m. and there is a repeat show on Sunday at 3 p.m. So don't forget to comment, send us your comments and any feedback that you may have about our show on our social media platform. So with me, I have two very beautiful ladies. So I'll start with the one who's near me. Please introduce yourself and what you do.
I'm from Philippines originally, but I trained as a specialist mental health nurse in the UK. And and we I was invited to come here to Kenya by our CEO, Faith Henton. She is Kenyan, and she developed a and founded a company called Pamoja because she recognized that there's a mental health gap service in within Kenya, and she wanted to contribute and give back to her community. When I found out about her vision, I wanted to get involved, and I wanted to also be part of a multidisciplinarity team to empower people and organization about mental health.
So I see we are talking about mental health. So I'm very interested in this discussion. So I'll move to the lady on my left. So introduce yourself and tell us what you do.
Okay, hello. My name's Claire and I'm from the UK. I'm an occupational therapist who's been working in mental health services for a while. And as an occupational therapist, we believe that despite barriers for people's disabilities or mental health, people can still live fulfilling lives. And we want to promote that meaningful day-to-day life despite people's barriers that might stop them from achieving that. And I'm here with Kat and the Pamoja Mental Health and Safeguarding Network. I was also invited here by our CEO, Faith, who had this vision about supporting mental health services in Kenya. And I'm passionate about cross-cultural perspectives of mental health and understanding mental health from different cultures. And I've also been to Kenya a few times and I love the country. So when she offered me the opportunity, I thought I have to come over and join the team. So that's why I'm here with Pamoja.
Thank you, thank you. I hope you can share your experiences from the various countries that you come from and your experience in the Philippines and in Kenya, what the differences are and what the similarities are. So you've been working in the UK as a nurse. So you moved here to Kenya. Can you kindly share your experience about how you've worked and the perspectives that are outside there and how you chose to specialize in the field of mental health?
So coming from the Philippines is very similar to Kenyan community. The mental health is underfunded and there's a lot of stigma related to mental health also in the Philippines. So coming from a third world country or developing country to a country that mental health is a lot more recognized, it was very eye opening for me. I was initially training to be a general nurse, but I changed to mental health because it's a world that I wasn't really raised in. In my country, like Kenya, you're still talking about mental health. What is mental health? how can you support people with mental health. And then when I came to the UK, there's a lot of talk about mental health, and there's a lot of normalization within the schools, within the hospitals. It's still a long way to go, but it's a lot more developed compared to the Philippines. And that's why I wanted to specialize in mental health, because I wanted to learn more about how you can support that small minority of people. And I also have my own experiences as well. I was diagnosed with PTSD, and I've had a very supportive treatment when I was in the UK, which I probably would have not received if I was in the Philippines. So when Faith mentioned about Pamoja, I want to be able to provide that same service to other people that I receive, because it made a difference to me. And I probably wouldn't be where I am now if those professionals, my family and friends, wasn't there for me.
Oh, okay. So sorry. That is really sad. But also, I'm happy to see that you have changed your perspective and you have decided to do things that have an impact. Okay. So, on to Claire. Do you have a sign name? Do you have a sign name?
I don't know. Can you tell me?
Okay. So I'm going to give you a sign name. That is going to be your sign name, okay? So you have traveled, you said you are an occupational therapist. So can you tell us generally how you decided to specialize with occupational therapy and how you chose to specialize with mental
Good
health?
question. So my first job was actually working with people with physical and learning disabilities. And that really inspired me to see how capable people are despite their disabilities. And from that, I learned about occupational therapy, which is all about, like I said, empowering people with barriers in their lives to achieve their goals and do what they want to do, what is important to them in daily life. So it was the inspiration from working with people with disabilities that had a big impact on my decision to become an occupational therapist. But also, I think when it comes to working in mental health, it's often that you're touched by a personal story that leads you there. So, as Kat was saying, and for me, I had a close family member that struggled with his mental health for a long time. And it was that made me curious about mental health and better understanding it. And that family member was male, and particularly from a male perspective, I think men deal with mental health in a very different way. So once I had qualified as an occupational therapist, I then went into working in forensic mental health, which is specifically with men with mental illness and criminal backgrounds. And then my journey led from there.
That is very interesting. It is beautiful that you saw that there's a gap and you decided to go and learn about it and to know how to apply your skills and to meet another person who, and you know how to mitigate and how to approach the same person. So, on to our next question. Question for Kat. You have worked around the very various places. So, you've worked in Kenya, the Philippines. So, what do you think about the challenges that are around the attitudes and the stigmatization around mental health?
So in the Philippines, like Kenyan, we are very, in some sense, religious, and that tend to influence how we view mental health. In Philippines as well, there's a lot of influence in terms of myth of curses and being possessed. So therefore, people don't actually try to understand why certain individuals are feeling the same way or acting the same way, because they put it down as they're cursed, or that their God is going to heal them, or that you've been a bad person, so therefore you're being punished. So those are the myths that we have to learn to break to be able to have an open conversation. Going to the UK, there have a lot of professionals that are trained and have a lot of knowledge in what is mental health. And also in schools, they have embedded a lot of education to raise awareness, to give the students, the parents, the teachers understanding on how to actually look after people that have mental health issues. It's still a long way, it is still developing, but it's definitely a lot more developed compared to the Philippines and the Kenyan community. So when we came here as Pamoja, we went to schools, and we've noticed that there's a lot of awareness within teachers and also students about mental health, but also how to actually cope with what they're experiencing.
I can agree with you. I don't know why people think when they see someone suffering with mental health and at the same time they are people with disability, they always say it's a curse. I don't know what they think. But it's very important to create awareness in those spaces to help people have the bigger picture and to understand the problem and to also give the help. On to Claire. So, can you share what you've seen? You said that one of your family members had a problem with mental health. What do you think that makes people really suffer, and how can we help them in terms of mental health?
Another good question. So I think, as Kat said, a lot of it is due to stigma, people worrying what will other people think. And even in the UK, there is still this stigma of what it might look like if I'm asking for help. There is also services, people don't know what services are available. And I think sometimes people just aren't aware that there is light at the end of the tunnel. I think when you are in a depression or when you are struggling with your mental health, it is hard to see beyond. It is hard to see that there is light. But with the right support, with the right education, there is light and there are ways of moving through it. But I think it can be very difficult to see that when you are struggling with your mental health. So combination of the stigma, not knowing what help is out there, and also it's very vulnerable. It's very vulnerable to be able to share how you are feeling. And sometimes we just feel, people have told us to toughen up, move on. It's not important. But actually, our mental health is very important, no matter who you are, whether you have a disability, whether you have a university education, whoever you are in the world, we all struggle with our mental health in some way or other.
I agree with you and what both of you have said on how it affects women and men and to find a balance. It is very different how it affects men and women, and it is not personalized. It is not the same as a normal person. So, with people with disability, they are really affected. We'll have a commercial break and we will be back with we'll continue with our discussion about mental health. Welcome back as we continue with our discussion about creating awareness about mental health. So, welcome back to our conversation. So, I want to ask you, Claire, what are some of the strategies or practices like that you can give us about some of the tips about mental health, about the things that you have seen so far that are experiencing are happening in our country. You have problems with our economy. There are some people who have problem with sports. What are some of the strategies or tips that we can copy in accordance with mental health to help people have to help our society and make it productive?
That's a big question. We could have a whole show about it, but I'll do my best to answer. So I think it starts with everyone is very individual and unique in terms of what they need. So it starts with knowing what do you need as an individual to stay mentally well and balanced. So what is it that makes you feel healthy, both physically and mentally? It's about thinking what is most important to you. Is it spending time with family and friends? Is it doing exercise? Is it spending time in nature and doing a job that you love, studying? It's really about knowing yourself and remembering to have a good balance of everything that is important to you in your week. Because it can be very easy if you're working, for example, to get so stuck in work that you forget to do the things that you need to stay balanced. So it's all about finding that balance of aspects of your life to so that you can navigate the ups and downs. Because what's important to remember is there are always ups and downs. And one of my favorite quotes is, you can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf, by John Kabat-Zinn. So it's about acknowledging that we all have ups and downs in life. There will always be challenges, like you say, politically. We will have family members becoming ill. We'll have our own personal problems. And it's about developing the skills to accept that that is part of life. But how can we have that balance so that we can stay on a equilibrium?
Yeah.
That's the word I was looking for. I think, and I'll hand over to Kat because I think she'll have a bit to add to that.
So one way to like describe about mental health is like think of it as a seesaw. So one side of the seesaw is your positive like what keeps you well. So your family, your hobbies, your professionals, your education, anything that you're interested in. And then the other side of the seesaw are pressures and risks that you experience in your daily life, like your economy, poverty, finance, jobs, lack of support. And in life, you have to be able to learn to keep that balance. And like a seesaw, you can't have it balanced, but making sure that you have more weight in your positive area than your negative area. And it's very important to keep that balance, because when it starts tipping, that's when your mental health starts to suffer. And you need to be able to recognize that. And that's where education and awareness comes in. Because if you don't know when you're feeling bad or your mental health is bad, you're not going to be able to put the strategies into place to manage that. And it's really also important to always seek for help as well, because those are the people that's going to give you the guidance and the support to manage your mental health.
I love the quote that you used. And also your sentiment, Kat, about finding the equilibrium. Because in life, you'll never find a place where everything is balanced. You have to know where the challenge is and to find a solution, or maybe change your perspective. Maybe you can go do a hobby, maybe go to the gym and find other activities to blow off the steam. So, my question to Kat, now you see, we have different communities and we have very different marginalized groups. For example, so what can we do to make mental health accessible for people with disability or the marginalized groups? So please tell us.
I think first of all is awareness and tailoring treatment depending on each individual, because no treatment fits one person, and that's what Pamoja recognizes, and that's where we try to develop packages and training to adapt depending on each individuals. Within the deaf community, I think what people forget is that they're also very much human. We just need to learn how to communicate better, and tailoring treatment is very important. One thing I suggested earlier was how do we interpret symptoms within the deaf communities? Because when, as a mental health nurse, when you're assessing someone that's got a mental health issue, we rely a lot on tone, body language, expression. But within the deaf community, each disability is very different. So we need to be able to create treatments and assessments that would fit those individuals so we can have a more reliable assessment on their mental health. And we need a lot of help from the government to be able to develop that and embed that into the policies and procedures so that the people with disability will have the same treatment like every other person.
Do you have anything to add, Claire?
Yeah, well, I would just follow on from what Kat's saying. It's so important just to have those additional resources, because people with disabilities, marginalized people, they experience mental health in just the same way as people without disabilities. So it's a human right to be able to access mental health services no matter what your ability. And I was reading about training, sign language training for the police and healthcare workers, which is a really positive step within Kenya. But what they talked about was that teachers weren't necessarily getting that training. So I think it's important to train and empower everyone who will be working alongside people with hearing impairments or disabilities so that they can adapt their practices in order to work with individuals with whatever their needs. And it's also having that mindset that there's a good phrase about disability is not inability, it's just about finding different ways to approach things. So there's always a way, no matter the disability. It's just understanding that and working alongside people with different abilities.
Accessibility is not to make everything the same, but it also varies. We do not just assume that all people need the same solutions to their mental health problems. It needs to be personalized. So we understand the person's problems first, then also go ahead with the medication or the treatment. So we also would like to know what is given and how to personalize the treatment. So back to Claire.
Back to me.
So what policies or laws can we apply to help reduce the mental health problems in future? Maybe the human rights, education, or health. Please share.
Yes, well, I think the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Education need to be leading on this to notice the importance of putting in laws and practices to empower people with disabilities, people with visual impairments, people with hearing impairments. Because when you invest in people with disabilities, you see so much progress. I would say people with disabilities are the most resilient people I know, and it's not a just world we live in if it is just because of the systems that are preventing them from engaging in work, education. We need to make it accessible. We need that to be driven by the government and to be funded by the government in order for people with disabilities to fully engage in daily life. And it's amazing that there are local organisations like this that are really promoting disability rights, but we also need the backing from the government and the policies to really move that forward. And we know the World Health Organization, the UN guidelines, it is a human right. We should be promoting this. And we can't say that lack of resources or lack of funds is stopping us. The funds need to be found so that we all have equal opportunities. It's something I'm passionate about, if you can see.
The ministry, or rather the government, you have had. You should stop saying there is not enough resources, because we have enough laws. We have the UN guidelines to promote better living standards for people who have mental health related problems. So on to Kat. So kindly tell us, for our viewers who are maybe struggling with mental health and maybe are finding it very hard, maybe to find a counselor. Please tell them where to get help.
To get counselors?
Yes. Kindly tell us, to the viewers, address it to the viewers who have maybe a mental health issue. Please tell them where they can go to get help.
I think, first of all, is thank you for creating platform for the individuals that's got hearing impairment, empowering them to actually recognize that they have probably mental health issues really important. But as Pamoja, we are now based in Kenya, and we are trying to create awareness within schools. But one thing that actually we're still lacking in education ourselves is how we can develop and support organizations that have hearing impairments. So it would be very helpful to also, from yourself, how we can get involved in developing treatments, projects, and also engaging the national and government level in supporting the individual with various disability, because it's still also a learning and educational thing for us. And like you said earlier, there's still a lack of services within Kenya. And I think the start would be trying to create more awareness and teaching people how to actually do sign language, to actually interact with people, so they're not alone in this.
I totally agree with you. I hope that any person who is viewing has gotten the information clearly. But kindly look for help. Basic help, you can find it anywhere.
Yeah.
Finally, I would like to. The society has a certain perspective on mental health. So I would like each of you to give a final word to our viewers.
I think for me is there's a power in community, and there's a power in peer support, and having just one person be there for you during the tough times makes a really big difference. Doesn't matter about who you are, where you're from, if you have a disability or not, but having that one person to just actively listen to your stresses and struggles can help you probably just feel a lot more lighter and heard about your problems. And if you feel like that's not someone, there's no one currently that you can approach that, please reach out. We are in Nairobi. We want to engage people, and obviously your organizations as well. So I hope that people can have the power to reach out and get some help, because there is a lot in strength in asking for help, and we need to normalize asking for help.
Please don't forget to ask for help, because speaking to one person can make a change.
I suppose my last word is there is hope. That despite what you may be going through, that it's about
Thank you.
knowing that you can ask for help from someone. Don't be frightened to ask for help. And by finding the right strategies that work for you, there is always hope in moving forward in mental health. And that's what we want to normalise, that we all experience struggles with our mental health, and it's just seeing that there is light at the end of the tunnel, but you might just need a little bit of support to get there. And hopefully Pamoja can step in and support with that as well.
Thank you so much to all the viewers who have what has been watching. I hope you've heard about the mental health. I have one thing. It's Deaf Awareness Month. So we can also do, can you share a word for the Deaf Awareness Month?
I guess for us is one thing we will say is there's no health without mental health.
How about you, Claire?
And for me, remember your strengths. No matter what's holding you back, you have a lot to give to the world. So remember your strengths.
See you on the next show, and goodbye.
Thank you.
Thank you.